dressed a little bit more than I usually would be. And there's a reason for that. So this morning when I was leaving work, my boss pulled me in and basically let me know that they were reassigning me to a different position in the company. Now, I think that where they were going with this, it's some sort of a punishment. But when you are reassigned rather than just released, look at it in some form or fashion as a promotion. That's how I'm looking at this, is that my job normally in the warehouse has jurisdiction all over the place, and now they're asking me to run a machine. Well, what they're inherently doing for me is a couple of things. They're taking the laborious tasks out of my job. They're taking almost 5 to 10 times the amount of duties that I would have to do away from said position working in the warehouse versus now working on a machine. And I don't have to worry about servicing 10 machines. Now I only have to worry about running one. There are so many upsides to that. Plus, they're actually giving me a new skill set, which I possessed before, but just not with this company, as far as running machinery in industrial fashion, as far as productivity is concerned. So they're expanding my workplace value, my job market value, on top of having 7 years working in a warehouse, having the experience driving a forklift, being certified in certain things. So when they think that what they're doing is somewhat of a punishment, I'm looking at it as an absolute bonus. Now, I wouldn't have asked for this transfer to run this machine, but because I am going to accept this and because I am going to do this, the other part of it is how I present myself is going to take a whole new spin as well. I don't have to worry about t-shirts. I don't have to worry about beat up jeans. I don't have to worry about the same 4 pairs of shoes because I don't want them scuffed from warehouse work and things like that. I can dress the part of somebody who's looking at their value now, because what my boss has inherently told me is you're too valuable to actually let go, but we're just going to put you in these other positions. Because, a little backstory, some of the employees that I've dealt with being able to have jurisdiction on the floor, we bump heads because people come to jobs and they come to work and they aren't there to be professionals, and I'm not there to be disrespected. And so when I've stood up for myself, that's become a problem where people have gone to HR or gone to the plant manager, things like that. I've been exonerated on almost everything, but they still deem me as the issue, and I'm okay with that because I will be that issue as long as the issue means that people are trying to be disrespectful, condescending, or patronizing towards a position that they had deemed less than them. My statement to that had always been, don't mistake what I do for who I am. And I think that that's just something that across the line, human respect is deserved even in the workplace. Even when you've come to work and you're tired, or you've had a fight with a spouse, or your money is low, or you had a flat tire, things like that. All of that has nothing to do with how you're going to treat the person in front of you. And that's a lesson that a lot of people need to remind themselves of before they come to a place of professionalism. And it is because we're paid to be there. So that is your profession, your career, your job, your work, whatever you want to call it. But those are all pieces that we have to carry within ourselves to say, that's not their problem. Now, I may be a little moody at times, or I may be a little off kilter, or not 100% the cheeriest me. That's okay. We all go through those ebbs and flows, but we have to have the emotional intelligence to be able to effectively communicate what it is that we do and don't need, rather than have snap decisions and over boilings of emotion. We have to think through a lot of things with logic before we get to those points. Now, I'm not perfect. I've certainly had those moments, but in the last few incidents, I've definitely been the person who was the calming factor in it. I've had men yell in my face trying to coax me into a physical altercation. I'm not going to do that. I've been accused by women that I had touched them and it was weird. I made the company, and there's a previous video on this as far as that goes. I made the company go do a thorough investigation, because what she was willing to do was allow it to be hearsay rather than actually lodging a formal complaint. So I lodged the formal complaint. Man, this is an important piece. If somebody's accusing you of something, especially like that, where your reputation and your name is at stake, you have to fight for that. It's not enough just to say, well, I know it's not true, or no, fight for your name and maybe for the person after you as well. This is where we fail a lot, is we let things go. And it sets up a precedence. Well, if it's not stopped or addressed, then it can continue to happen. So we have to make legislative change by our own single experiences and those actions that we take as a result of it. So say all that to say, I made them do a thorough investigation. I was exonerated of everything, and I made them give me a write-up. That's an important part. Keep your own paper trail, because you can be sure every time your boss talks to you or something happens, there will be something that will be of note in your file. So you want to make sure that the things that you can stand up for yourself, you do that. And if it means that they push you to a different position or whatever it is, be able to lay your head on the pillow at night and be okay with that. Be able to walk out of the job with your head high. Be able to walk into the job with your head high. And throughout the day, walk through with your head high. Don't let them beat you down. This is a representation of what they did not expect I would turn into, as far as saying, sure, I'm sure what they thought was this is going to be a chance to manage me out and say, well, we're going to put you over here, and wait for me to say, no, I'm not going to do that. How dare you put me in this position? I've always done that. Nope. Cool, no problem. Don't be so mad or in your emotions that you take away the ability to feed your family and pay your bills. That's not what this is. So even if I decide that I'm going to move on or look for different employment, in the meantime, I'm going to learn this job, because again, they are giving me a new set of skills to learn, which only increases my job market value. So there's a lot of pluses to this. Not to mention, I get to dress better. And I've mentioned that. Now I don't have to deal with all the personalities that I normally would have doing duties throughout the warehouse. I just have to concentrate on me and my machine. So there's a lot of upside to these things. So I'm not mad at it. And I took the time to make it a congratulatory moment. And I will do that when I go to work tonight.
This week. And then also, just to let you know that we're actually making a change. So Vincent and Vince are going to be machine operators, and then we're having new chill handlers. So it's going to be a little transition for everybody. Just
Hey,
kind of bear with us.
Miguel, can I just say I appreciate you guys and the support for me and Ashton, and like your vision to see that we can do this. So everybody, we appreciate the help, and just give us your graces with the promotions, and we'll do what we can. Thank you.
Like I said, it'll be
Because a lot of my coworkers don't realize this is what's happening, and that's okay as well. But I will explain it to them, and I will tell them, like, don't look at this as anything other than what I do. This is a promotion of sorts. It's a life promotion, because it's also given me the spark to say, you know what? Maybe I'm greater than what this company has to offer. Maybe there's something out there more that I can look at. But once I build up a set of skills, do I want to transfer that, or do I want to work on my own personal projects? Maybe this is that wake up to say, you know what? In certain pools and at all levels of corporations and jobs and things like that, people feel unappreciated and underpaid. Maybe it's just time that you go for it and do it yourself. So there's a lot to consider here. There's a lot to really embrace about this moment. There's nothing about this that I feel down about. I'm certainly not mad about it, because what we have here is the ability to control what is done about something. Like, we have that ability. I'm not going to pout about this. I'm not going to be upset about it. There's nothing to be upset about. I'm still employed. I still have the ability to feed my children. I still have insurance. I still have, all of these things, a paycheck. I still have my savings that's growing. All of those things are upsides. The fact that I'm just going to do those things in a different spot is of lesser consequence. So this is just my thoughts openly when it comes to that. Certainly over the past 7 years, you could, say, yeah, he could have been a better employee when it comes to this, and that. But my question to any of us is, where have we been for 7 years where we had to deal with the public or deal with other people, and we did not have some form of adversity. It happens. And for those of us who stand up for ourselves, who are more outspoken, yes, you're going to have more of these headbuttings, because a lot of people think that they will be able to steamroll you and just allow that their bad day dictate how they get to talk to you. And when you stand up for yourself rather than just take it, then of course you're going to have those pushbacks, you're going to have those issues. You may end up being spoken to in an administrative fashion, which I have no problem with, because it allows me to have my moment to speak as well. So as long as we do these things with professionalism, as long as we do these things staying more in logic rather than just reacting emotionally to what people say, certainly lay out your side of the story and let the chips fall where they may. But in the meantime, I'm going to embrace this. Now, I may not go to work every day in a suit and shirt and things like that, but I'm going to improve just my overall value for myself. And I've always carried that, but again, I think some of that comes with the way that I'm able to walk into work. So now I can walk into work dressed a little better, and it doesn't mean I'll necessarily feel better as a result of it, but I'm going to garner a different respect. And that's going to be the part that a lot of people aren't going to see coming, and a lot of other people are going to say, you know what, we knew that was in you all along. Good for you. So take the support where it's at, and the people who aren't supporting you, that's fine as well. They're meant to be there. They're meant to have that role, so we are able to say, you know what, it's not everybody. Not 100% of the people are going to be behind you. And even the, say, 50% of those who are behind you, make sure that they are supporting you and not just detracting from you while they're behind you. Because sometimes not everybody in the bleachers is cheering for you. Part of this really comes down to the influence that my boss is fearful that I have. The word he actually used was that I'm undermining the shift, and nothing could be further from the truth. It's just that he's put two people in place who don't really have a strong presence, and this is not just my assertion. This is from hearing from other coworkers who have seen these same traits in these men. So the failings of my boss, who, you know, I guess would be an alpha in that sense, is he's brought in betas to really fall to his whims, but then he didn't account for somebody else with a strong presence working amongst these beta males. And I don't want to say beta males, but these men that don't carry as strong a presence. So he's stuck with this, what do I do with this person, meaning me, and that's okay. That's okay. This is what he saw fit to do. And what I stand by and what I take from that is he knows my value. He knows that what I am capable of doing is being consistent. My attendance record is almost spotless. They know that I'm not the person that would be in danger of failing the drugs. I would not be in danger of violating safety and health, things like that. So they know that I have value. And I know that they know that I have value. And more importantly, I know that I have value. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ride this out, and I'm going to just say, this is not my first rodeo dealing with this industry. This is not my first rodeo dealing with bosses like that. This is not my first rodeo with people who would prefer that I not be in their presence based off of my ability to say, you're not going to talk to me that way. That's just how this is. And, we can have conversation, but we're going to do it in a respectful tone, and a lot of times that takes people aback some. But those are not my failings to deal with, but they are teachable moments. And sometimes you come out on the better side of it as a result of dealing with people like that, because you learn, you grow, and you are able to say, you know what, I'm going to take from that circumstance and I'm going to be able to apply it to possibly the next one. Now, what we don't want to do is say, well, I'm going to learn from that fight so I can fight better next time. What we want to do is learn from that fight how to avoid that fight. That's where we get better with these things, so we improve over time. So in my 7 years, have I improved? Certainly. But I also understand that the culture that my boss likes to say we have there is very toxic at times. and it's based in a lot of favoritism, office politics, like a lot of jobs are, and that's okay because he can't see everything. But some of the things that are allowed to happen are certainly a result of that. And the way I liken that is it's like being a citizen of a country or community that you've lived in for 7 years, and some bad things have happened, some good things have happened, but you really can't control any of that. You are just you're basically in a situation to respond to things that happen. And how you respond to them should not necessarily mean it's to the detriment of how people view your character. So I'm going to leave it at that. I like where I'm at. I appreciate that, even though like some people will be like, oh man, it sounds like you got, no, it's not. I didn't. This is nothing but a promotion, and I'm going to come in dressed in a fashion where it's going to set a lot of people in yoga pants, hoodies, Crocs, backwards baseball hats, all of that stuff, untucked dress shirts, all of that stuff. It's going to put them on notice that this is how you do it. This is how you take what somebody is going to deem lemons and you make meringue out of it, not just lemonade. You do the best with it that is possible. You do the best that you can with that circumstance, and then you make your choices from there. Maybe you say, like, I'm going to keep moving up and prove everybody wrong over the course of time, or I'm just going to learn this skill set and I'm going to take my talents someplace else and go from there. But think before you do that. Think in logic. Think in stoicism. Don't react in emotion, because that's a lot of times what they want. These jobs will try to manage you out, where they will say, we're going to give you a position that you don't want, and you can either take it or you can leave it. And most of the time, they're prepared for you to leave. As a matter of fact, a lot of times that's silently what they want, because what it does in a lot of cases is it keeps them from having to pay something like an unemployment. So that's why a lot of times you're not seeing people getting fired for things. They'll just continue to make your stay as unpleasant as possible until the point that you leave. You probably see that in things like restaurants. If they don't care for a particular type of consumer or customer or something like that, they will just not go serve them, not take their order, or the food takes forever. Things like that. Bad service is a sure way to like ensure that somebody will not come back. And that's a lot of times what your employer is doing. And really going to talk to higher ups, things like HR, just remember that HR is there to protect the company. They're not there for your benefit. They're there to protect the company. So they are a resource. I suggest that you use them. I suggest that you make often the proverbial snake bite itself. So the same things that they might use to punish employees, such as cameras, such as testimony from other employees, make them do that when you are holding them accountable as well. And it's a tried and true method. I've done that myself at more than one job, and it works. So, boy, don't I sound like the problem employee? Don't I sound like the person who's just venting and saying, well, it's not my fault, it's their fault? No, there's a lot of things that I did wrong. There's a lot of things that I could have done better, and that's where I'm putting this out here, because I know that, yeah, there's definitely things that I could have done better, but I also know that there's things like standing up for myself that I would not trade. And however that came to be, whether it was through firefight or, exchange of olive branches, you have to do that. And you have to understand that the more that you stand up for yourself, the less you're going to have these stresses outside of life where you feel like, man, my boss is just beating me down, or there's that one coworker. No, you got to sometimes take these things head on, but you have to have a game plan. You have to be able to really stand in your ability to effectively communicate, no matter what they are doing, no matter how crazy they get, no matter what they yell, say this or that. Don't react with them. Fighting fire with fire just creates more fire. So what you want to do is react with water as much as you can. That's just where I'm coming to. At some points there are certain things where maybe fire with fire is a viable option. But if you're talking about in a place of profession, this is where we want to bring our levels down and think through things. That's what your job is paying you for, is to be able to focus, concentrate, execute, and be productive while you're doing that. And screaming and yelling with somebody is it's almost the complete opposite of that. What are your thoughts on this? I know anybody in the workplace has probably either dealt with it personally, had to see it from one end or the other. Were you the manager? What did you learn as a result of those things? Were you the employee? Were you somebody who saw it? Were you in HR? Or were you the spouse or the family member of somebody who kept coming home and having to deal with that boss or deal with that employee? What are your thoughts? Because I think anytime we're connected, first, second, third, fifth, sixth person to the workplace, there's always going to be some story like this. So it would be great if you left it in the comments. That way other people can see and possibly read and share and things like that, what these influences have had upon you, and how you overcame them, or did you overcome them. As always, subscriptions are free. Would love to hear from you guys. Sharing the content. Maybe there's somebody who needs to hear this and understand that some of these things they're not the punishments unless you allow them to be. So whatever you put in your mind about the circumstance is really what you can make of it. Not every circumstance is going to be that cut and dry, but for the most part, something like this is a blip on my radar, because for the past 7 years, I've been going to that same location anyway. So I'm driving to the same place. I'm just doing a different job while I'm doing it. And it's a job that I'm somewhat familiar with anyways, because I've been in the same building. So there's a lot of upside to it. Plus, I have good people around me that I know that are going to help make sure that I get the best result out of this as possible. So again, there's upsides to this, and I'm finding all of them. And the negatives are so minute that they don't register, nor do the people who try to paint me into this corner. So they have the legislative power to do something about, like, saying we're going to put you over here, but mentally I'm still the same person. So there's a lot of freedom in that. Physically you can be in a particular place, but mentally, you emotionally, spiritually, physically, or psychologically, you can always be free. They can only contain your physical person, but that doesn't make who you are. So please keep that in mind, because it's very important. So I hope this finds everybody in your place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. And we'll see you very soon. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.